2nd of October 2018. We will welcome you to Weber County Commission meeting. We're glad you're here. Special recognition to Tim Vandernack from the Standard Examiner. Great to have you here. We love it when you come, even if it is annually, or well, at least monthly, or maybe weekly, depends on what year it is, month, day. I love giving you a hard time, thanks. Today we're going to start with, we're going to change things up just a little bit that's on our agenda. Take a little executive privilege, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Ebert to give us a couple of thoughts. It is Suicide Prevention Month, and I'm going to ask that Commissioner Ebert give us a couple of thoughts. Then, following his thoughts, Ricky Hatch will ask that you give us our invocation. Rhonda Kippen, if you'll give us the Pledge of Allegiance, and then our thought of the day will come back to Commissioner Ebert. So we'll go to that order just like that.
So again, I appreciate the leeway a little bit into kind of juggling the agenda today. It is National Suicide Awareness. Working in law enforcement, and for those who have worked in law enforcement, you're a little more exposed to a little bit of the death that we see in our community, whether it's traffic accidents or people dying of natural causes or suicide. And suicide is a little more prevalent than I think most folks realize and understand. We have communities many times that don't want to really address it because it's a difficult thing to deal with. But until, as a community, we start better understanding and embracing our responsibility to help prevent it, and until we're willing to talk about it, not as a taboo, but as an issue that we have as a community, we'll continue to see those rates increase. And so the Weber County Commission is asking you today to be part of the solution and to better understand some of the risk factors and some of the indicators of an individual who may be in crisis, and then work with that individual or contact the necessary resources to help prevent suicide. So if you don't mind, I'll take just a moment and talk about some of the risk factors. So previous mental disorders, alcohol and other substance use disorders, individuals that are exhibiting hopelessness, individuals that have impulsive and or aggressive tendencies, if there's a history of trauma and abuse, major physical or chronic illness, which is a huge one, individuals that have had previous suicide attempts, family histories of suicide, recent job or financial loss, recent loss of relationships, easy access to lethal means, which makes it easier, local clusters of suicide, which we saw several years ago in our Weber Cone in some of our youth, lack of social support and a sense of isolation, a stigma associated with asking for help, lack of health care, especially mental health and substance abuse treatment, cultural or religious beliefs such as the belief that suicide is a noble resolution of a personal dilemma, and exposure to others who have died by suicide. We're asking you that are present today, and any that may be listening, to think about individuals that you come in contact, that you work with or that you live with, that may be exhibiting these risk factors. One factor may not be as prevalent as a cluster or a group of them in understanding that this individual may be in crisis. If you feel like someone's in crisis, go talk to them. Many times, as you see, the feeling of isolation is one of those big risk factors. And as you go and spend some time talking and working through an individual that is exhibiting some of these risk factors, it may become evident that they need some professional help. And there are a lot of facilities and a lot of services out there. There are suicide prevention lines. Weber Behavioral Health has an amazing program, and you can work through your insurance carriers also to address some of these issues. Suicide is the number one contributor to death in this. Number 10 contributor to death in this country. That's a fairly large number, and we need that number to decrease. The reason why I'm talking about this specifically today is we lost an amazing member of our community Saturday, an individual that I knew very well, an individual that was an amazing person, that brought a smile to everybody he had contact with. An individual that worked with your youth and taught them amazing things. They loved him. An individual that in a profession where people can become hardened, always smiled. Had a ruthless sense of humor. And we lost him because the impact of law enforcement, the impact of personal tragedy in his life was more than he could handle. There's nothing more valuable than our humanity. And there's nothing worse than feeling like you should have done something when you didn't. And so today, it's been a difficult 3 or 4 days, I think, for members of our community. As we think about this amazing individual that we've lost. And I want each of you to never have to feel like you didn't take that one little extra step that you could have taken to help somebody. So I hope that understanding the risk factors and a little urge for you to maybe reach out to somebody within your community or in your family or in your social network that may be struggling could maybe be that one little thing that gets them through today that will get them through tomorrow. So if I may take a point of personal privilege and ask for us to take a moment of silence for those who are struggling today, those of that family and others that we may not know, that today, we're moving forward, different things in our life, but they are going to have this struggle for the rest of their lives. So I would ask that you join with me for a moment of gentle silence for that family.
We'll do that now. Thank you. Mr. Hatch.
Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, we approach Thee with gratitude and respect for Thee and for Thy grace and Thy goodness and love towards all of us. We are mindful in this public meeting that those who will be making decisions represent the citizens of the county. We're mindful that our role is to protect the rights that Thou hast given to all residents and inhabitants in the city. And we pray that as we keep this in mind, we can use good judgment in the discourse and decisions. Our hearts are tender with the loss of our deputy, and we pray that Thy loving arms will reach down to his family, friends, co-workers, and others to comfort them. We ask Thee, Father, now to enlighten our minds, to help us to share our thoughts appropriately and to learn together and make this community and county a better place. We love Thee and pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Back to you, Commissioner.
It has been an interesting weekend for me. And so the only thought I have for you today is value your relationships. Go home and hug that child that's been driving you crazy. Take time to be more patient with your spouse. And truly enjoy your life. We live in an amazing country, an amazing community. We work with amazing people. We get caught up too many times in little things that really don't matter. When there are things that really truly matter, we let go a little bit too much. And so today is a great day of reflection into the bounties of this life we have and the blessings. Go enjoy those relationships again. Find something that makes you happy and do it today. Don't put it off till tomorrow.
Thank you. Any words you'd like to add right now, Commissioner Jenkins?
No, thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate those who have participated in our thus far. We'll move now on to item number E on our agenda, which are public comments. Anyone who is seated in the audience who would like to address the commission, now is the time to come forward. We'd ask you to come to the microphone. Limit your comments to 3 minutes, but state your name and address before you do so. We'll give you that opportunity now.
Commissioners, I would like to take a moment to make a public comment. If
Very good. Right. Mr. Crockett.
My name is Christopher Crockett. I am a Deputy County Attorney with the Weber County Attorney's Office. I would like to first thank Commissioner Ebert for that wonderful thought. Incredibly important topic that I think every person in this room has had some connection with in one way or another. I just wanted to mention that tonight at the Piers Egyptian Theater, there's a screening of the film called Suicide, The Ripple Effect. It's a movie on a mission to eradicate suicide, and I'll just read this little portion of the synopsis of the event. This film is part of a global mission to help reduce the number of suicides and suicide attempts around the world. Through sharing stories of survival and recovery, we are creating significant awareness of this health crisis while helping people find the support they need to stay alive, heal, and be here tomorrow. I just thought maybe there's some members of the public or people who are listening who would be interested in attending that event tonight.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. Right over across the street at or around at 2450 Washington Boulevard at the Piers Egyptian Theater.
At 7 o'clock tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else? Terrific. Commissioners, then, would like to move on to item number F on our agenda, which are the consent items. I'll read those consent items as outlined, which is the number 1, the request for approval of warrants 1557 to 1562 and 432, 329 to 432, 497, the amount of $1,951,512.69. Item 2 on the agenda under consent is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $788,903.02. Item 3 is a request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on September 25th, 2018. Item 4 is a request for information technology for approval to surplus computers and equipment. Item 5 is a request for approval to change order number 12 for manhole repair and rock wall installation for a roadside slopes stabilization. Commissioners, any questions on any of the consent items today?
I do. Pardon me. I thought maybe we'd have them explain to us before I ask my question.
Okay, very good. Mr. Hatch, would you make your explanation, please?
Absolutely. This week we issued 11 purchase orders for $789,000. 59% of that amount, $462,000, is for the Sheriff's Office, and that will go to purchase radios. That will be the first of a few purchases as they move over to the state-mandated new platform. 23%, or $181,000, is for our monthly, is to the paramedic, for the paramedic fund, and that is to purchase an ambulance and extrication equipment. 17%, or $131,000, was for IT, and that will purchase computer hardware and some software maintenance as well. As far as checks go, we issued 157 checks this week for $2 million. Just over half of that amount is for road construction payments, reimbursement payments to Ogden City for the Skyline Drive, as well as some work done up at Powder Mountain. 15%, or $293,000, is for corridor preservation, and most of that is reimbursement, again, to purchase property at North Street in Ogden. 7%, or $130,000, come from 4 ramp awards to various entities throughout the county. And then 5%, or $106,000, is for IT, and that is maintenance renewal for our telecommunications software.
Very good. Commissioner Jenkins.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The change order for the rock repair and the water installation, number 12, are we going to have that explained to us today?
I'm not familiar with that.
Now, as I read through that change, there we go. As I read through that change order, I had a little trouble understanding that, so I was hoping to get an explanation.
Sure. Do I need to state my name?
Please.
I'm Braden Felix with the County Engineering Department.
Thank you.
Thanks, Braden.
And we have an open contract with Geneva Rock Products, who did the construction of Summit Pass and Spring Park Road up at the Powder Mountain area. And recently we had a couple of issues on the road, one of those being that there was a manhole that was discovered to have been constructed over and was not revealed until there was a blockage that was actually undermining the road itself. So we had Geneva go fix it, and we had the Powder Mountain Water and Sewer District pay us for that portion of the change order. The other portion would be for the AON slide that happened on the side of the road. The slope itself wasn't stabilized well enough, and so we had Geneva go and fix that as well. And now we are working with Summit Mountain Holding Group to get the funds available so that we can get that paid as well. I've worked it out with Sean Wilkinson and with Scott Park to use our funds that we have available right now so that we can at least make the payment to Geneva. And so the total comes out to that $12,000 and change.
So you anticipate we'll be reimbursed for the second part of that explanation?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. That's wonderful. That's the
Sure
part
thing.
of that I didn't understand.
Anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. Commissioners, either one.
I'd make a motion that we approve the consent item.
I have a motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
And a second. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those consent items plan as presented. Terrific. We'll now move on to item G on the agenda. Action items. First one is Ms. Skeen, Stacy Skeen, which is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing Bob Barrett to the Public Shooting Ranges Facility Study Committee.
Good morning. We've had a member of the Shooting Range Facility Committee resign due to his job taking him elsewhere, George Grootbrosh, and so the committee is recommending Bob Barrett to replace him on this board.
Does he? And I imagine that he filled out an application and meets the requirements for this board.
This board, they just need to do a recommendation. No applications.
Commissioners, any questions regarding Bob? I'm not familiar with him, but trust the board. Commissioner Ebert, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Bob Barrett to the Public Shooting Range and Facilities Study Group.
Second.
A motion and a second. We'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Excuse me, it is Resolution 47.
It is a resolution, thank you, and that'll be a roll call vote. I have a motion and a second. Fatima, go ahead.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
and Chair Harvey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Number 2 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Jefferson Solutions, Inc. for actuary valuation. Actuarial? Actuarial valuation. Well, that's a word I'm not familiar with. Actuarial valuation.
Yes.
Value of the county's OPEB benefits in accordance with the GASB 75. Mr. Park, we've talked about this a little bit.
We
Go
have.
ahead, please.
So every 2 years, we are required to have an independent actuary come in and do evaluation on our other post-employment benefit liability. So what this is when employees retire with the county, they are given 5 years of health insurance, and then we also, at one time, were paying out for sick leave. We've since changed those benefits, but we still have employees that were promised those benefits and have an interest in those benefits. And so every other year, we have an actuary come in and do evaluation on that, and they tell us what the liability of those benefits are. We went out and did a procurement this year. The prior firm that was doing this, were invited to participate as well, but this is actually a change to a new firm. They came in with some high recommendations, and their cost was less than half of what we were previously paying. And so we feel it appropriate to switch to Jefferson Solutions and have them value our OPEB benefits for the next 6 years. So it will be 3 actual valuations and then 3 off years. So this will be a 6-year contract.
Very good. What is your recommendation?
I think that this is a great partnership that we'll have with them, and I'm excited to work with them. So I would ask that you approve the contract.
Very good.
And if I could add one thing, actuaries, we love our actuaries, but accountants are actuaries with a personality. That's how exciting the actuaries are.
I still say actuaries are all hocus pocus. That was a joke for you.
And when can we expect that personality to shine through, Mr. Hatch?
We're still working on that.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Really quickly, how long will it take once you sign the contract for them to start this process and give us some type of information on what our liability is?
We worked out the timing with them so that we would send them the data in November, and then they would be 4 to 6 weeks after we send them good data before they return the results.
Thank you. That's all I have. Chair.
Mr. Jenkins?
None.
Recently there was or 4 years ago, there was a situation created by a previous commission where elected officials were treated differently. I'm grateful that since that time, and us learning about that we now come up with an ordinance to make sure that elected officials are treated no differently than any other employee that works for Weber County. And I'm proud of this current commission that we have aligned ourselves appropriately. So I just wanted to make that comment. I'll entertain a motion for this.
So it's important that we understand our liability here. And of course, that's what this is all about, is to explain the detail of that. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yep.
So that I'd make a motion that we approve item G2.
Second.
I have a motion for item G2 and a second as read. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr.
Did you
Park.
vote?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 3. Great. Item number 3, Commissioner Jenkins, this is a discussion and or action on impact fee relief for Kimberly Clark. Go ahead, please.
Craig Brown is here. He is going to explain that for us.
Very good.
Craig, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Craig.
Kimberly Clark has asked for a reduction in the impact fees for stormwater. Ordinance 16-8-8, adjustment of standard impact fees. The County Commission may adjust the standard impact fees at the time the fee is charged to, 1, respond to unusual circumstances in the cases, and ensure that the impact fees are imposed fairly. This is more, I think, in line with number 2, imposing them fairly. Kimberly Clark sits on, I've lost it, a large parcel. Sorry, I can't find it in my paper here.
Can't help you out.
400 and something acres, I believe it is, that created an impact fee for the stormwater of $175,526. In the past, we've done reductions on these large parcels to impose an impact fee fairly with them. The impact fee was designed for a city where typically when you had a commercial impact fee, they take the whole block more or less, or the whole lot, and cover it with asphalt and so forth. So these large parcels don't quite fall into that, and we reduced it down to an area of 4.3 acres for this rather large addition, which created an impact fee of $5,654.50. Now, I do realize that there's been some other discussions with you gentlemen to reduce further another $20,000. Is that correct? Taking that off of roads. Is that correct? Okay. I do have representative here from Big D and from Kimberly Clark if you have any questions.
So the impact fee, the impact fee that's being presented today is what then? It was.
I don't have that number in front of me. I'm sorry.
But it is a reduction of 20 grand, or
Yeah.
$20,000.
Another $20,000, which should bring it. I don't dare say. I don't want to speak out of turn.
Okay, one moment, please.
Sorry about that.
But we didn't really come prepared with those exact numbers because this is strictly another $20,000 reduction. It's kind of like they didn't really appeal the first one, but they asked us to take a second look at it.
Yes.
So we did.
They're actually going to be creating less traffic. Right now, they're taking trucks transporting their product from their manufacturing facility over to a warehouse in BDO, and then driving back. With this warehouse addition that they're doing, it's going to eliminate that traffic. So there is some less traffic on that.
I felt like it was a good request, and so we've all talked about it. We've had our discussions, so if you are okay, Commissioner Ebert, I'm ready to make a motion.
The only thing is I'm just a little hesitant to vote yes on this because their beeping keeps me up all night long. If they can do something about the beeping in the middle of the night, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Well, there'll be less beeping now because they don't have to go back and forth.
Very good.
I'm good, Commissioner.
Very good.
I'll entertain a motion, Commissioner.
I'd make a motion that we approve G3.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for G3. Unless there's any comment or discussion from the two that are visiting us in the audience, from Kimberly Clark or from...
If you have questions.
None.
I just want to know if you wanted to say anything.
Nope, that'd be great. Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Commissioners, we're going to move on to item number H on the agenda today, which is a request. I'll entertain a request for a motion to adjourn this public meeting and convene a public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. We are now in a public hearing. The public hearing consists as follows, which is page 2. We're going to discuss number A, an action to amend the West Central Weber County General Plan Future Land Use Map to change some of the proposed industrial area in the block between 7500 West and 7900 West, just north of 900 South, from industrial to residential or agricultural, and to extend the industrial southward to 900 South. Charlie Ewert.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Ready?
It's all right. You can hear us.
Okay. We've got 2 items in front of you, and if you don't mind, I'll just consolidate both presentations into one like I did with our last rezone request.
Then with that request, then I will read number B before you go ahead with that.
Great.
Item B is a request to amend the zone map to change property in the block between 7500 West and 7900 West, just north of 900 South, from M1 to A2, and from A1 to M1. Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you. A little easier to understand when you're looking at what the outcome is. So the property that we're looking at is way out west on 7500 West. It's the block between 7500 and I believe it's 7900, just north of 900 South, otherwise known as 12th Street. Property we're looking at is this property here. The big square that you see up on the northeast side is going to be rezoned, proposed to be rezoned to A2 zone. And the little strip that you see along 900 South is proposed to be rezoned to the M1 zone. And here's the subject property again. This is the existing future land use map in your general plan. So item A is amending this map to change what you see in that square to what you see there, minus the red crosshatch. So the yellow is residential agricultural, and the purple that you see down along 900 is industrial. So let me just scoot back. You can see what it is now. You've got residential lining 900 South and manufacturing behind. This creates a little bit of a crisper edge for that manufacturing zone being 900 South. And then the rest of that area just west of 7500 West would be residential or agricultural. This is the current zoning of the area. You can see the zoning looks very similar to what the general plan map looks like. They're identical. So how the rezone would work is that. I'm just going to go back. This is what it is currently, M1 zone. So you'd be extending the M1 down to 900 and then moving A2 further west. Okay. So as we look at that, we worked with a number of property owners in the area. It was at the Planning Commission, I think 3 or 4 different times before the Planning Commission felt comfortable making a decision. The final discussion, there was no opposition to the rezone as you currently see it. I don't know if there's going to be in here in this public hearing, but Planning Commission recommended approval based off of no opposition, and it was a unanimous vote. Staff are recommending the same. Do you have any questions for me?
Very good. Commissioners, any questions?
You know, I might make a comment. I have a daughter that lives out in that direction, out in that area, so I contacted her, and I know they've talked it around. Did you have much of a attendance at your meeting?
We did. Well, I mean, relative to the amount of population that we have out there, I think we had a pretty good level of attendance for each meeting. Different people coming to different meetings, but we had a core group that were here to each.
Okay. Well, I'm very much in favor of what you're doing here. I think this is appropriate.
Thank you.
Who's requesting the rezone?
The request is by John Price. I didn't see him in the crowd today, but I did see others who were from the area in the crowd. So I don't see the applicant here.
Great. We'll have public comments here in just a few moments. Okay. Commissioners, are there any other questions for Mr. Ebert?
Yes. Does he have a planned usage for it? Rezone?
He does. It's very general. It's right now what he's looking to do is just change the zone for future potential. He's not looking to develop yet, but in the future he would like to have the opportunity for 40,000 square foot lot sizes out there for residential development.
So this is more of a residential move?
Yeah, in the future. Again, he says it's not anytime soon. It's just a little bit more like estate and retirement planning is what he's looking to do.
Okay. He believes, and this is what we see a lot, a rezone to increase value of their property so they can sell it. Is this what you're feeling that he's looking at?
Yeah, what he continually expressed to the Planning Commission was the M1 zone is not beneficially valuable to him at this time without significant improvements, utilities and infrastructure. He said he thinks he can turn a profit better on the land if it was just A2.
So do you think the community is aware that the rezone will result in possible future residential growth? That's what my question is to you.
That was part of the discussion.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, thank you, Mr. Ebert.
Thank you.
Item number 3 has been pulled from this agenda, so we will not be hearing that. Ms. Kippen, we're going to move to item number 4, which is a public hearing for consideration and action on a request for the First Amendment of the Zoning Development Agreement Ordinance 96-33 to reinstate the expired zoning development agreement and allow for a temporary park and ride lot, or park and ride lot. Ms. Kippen, if you'll give us just a brief description on this. Thank you.
I will. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, gentlemen. Just a brief analysis on this. Back in January 13th, 1997, this property, are we all familiar with where this property is? At the Valley Market up in Eden, at the four-way stop, this property is located directly to the north of that property. It's the dirt spot where the UTA bus comes and picks up the skiers during the winter.
Parking area.
Big parking area. Are you right by? It's right by Maverick.
Right. Across the street.
You got it in your brain now.
Well, if it's across the street, that'd be the southeast corner.
It'd be north.
It's just behind the market.
Yeah, northeast of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, behind the market, behind the cabins that are there.
Great.
Okay,
I know
you
where exactly
know where I'm
we're
at now?
talking.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So that area was rezoned back in 1997, and with that zoning development agreement, there was a conceptual plan that went with this rezone. During one of the applicants' request to renew their temporary CUP, it was brought to my attention due to some research that there was a concept plan on this property and temporary parking was not part of that. So as part of a conditional use permit, you have to find that it is in compliance with its current zoning development agreement. And so we have been working with Mr. Terry. He apologizes. He's actually out of the country. He was not able to make it today. But we've been working back and forth with Mr. Terry, and what we have agreed upon is extending the park and ride another 5 years. He will be leasing it out to Summit Mountain Holding Group, who allows for free parking there during the during the snow season, and the UTA bus comes, picks up the skiers, and hauls them up to the mountain. And so we are recommending, well, staff as well as the Ogden Valley Planning Commission are recommending approval of this request to amend the conceptual development plan as part of amending the zoning development agreement approved as contract 96-33, based on the fact that we have asked the property owner to install some trees along the corridor of Highway 162 to kind of soften the buffer, the park and ride. Due to it being such a commercial area, we just want to make sure that that's not an eyesore for people that visit the beautiful Ogden Valley. And they have agreed to this. Due to the code, temporary park and rides do not need to be paved. And so we are okay with the product that they have got down, compacted. They treat it so that they're going to treat it this year so that it doesn't pack out onto the road. We did have some issues with that last year. And so basically what we are doing here is amending into the zoning development agreement the allowance for temporary parking, and on the conceptual drawing on lot 2, adding a use of temporary parking to that lot also. So that when Mr. Terry decides to move forward, he can then move forward with the commercial that was originally intended for and not just have this as a parking lot.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Kippen on this particular item, or item number 4 on our public hearing?
So Rhonda, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, we had another issue with parking for Summit, and they had resolution on a piece of their property, but there was a negative impact to the community.
Correct.
So we, like I was involved in this, so you worked out a resolution to continue this parking, which isn't quite as good for Summit, but they're willing to do it rather than using this other piece of property?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, yes, I reached out to the property owner, and we were able to get the...
So, Rhonda, turn a problem into a resolution here on this, and this is the resolution for Summit's parking.
Terrific. I have a question. You said adding trees to soften. Look, what caliper tree will they start with?
They will start with what's in our code. So we 2-inch caliper, and we're looking for evergreens that are drought resistant. So luckily I have a director who knows all about landscaping, and so he'll be able to tell us what type of trees we will need to have installed.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Kippen.
Thank
if you'll
you.
just be available here for the next little bit.
I will. And we're looking at approximately 8 trees along the front of that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Inasmuch as we're in a public hearing, now is the time for those, we haven't taken any action, but plan to. So before we take any action during this public hearing, now's the time for public comments. Those in our audience who would like to comment about either of the things that Mr. Ewert presented or Ms. Kippen presented, would you please come to the microphone now and state your name and address. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Good, I was hoping you'd come forward.
Flora Hayes, and I hate public speaking. 7708 West, 900 South.
Sorry.
It really isn't public. It's
Yeah.
just a bunch of friends.
And can you just, can you state your name again?
Flora Hayes, 7708 West, 900 South. Ours is a piece of property that is currently M1 on half of it, and the front half by 900 South is A1, I believe. So we're in favor of moving us all to M1. We've been there 42 years without being able to use the front piece of our property, and we just like to be able to utilize it. So that's all I have to say. Okay.
Very good. Any other comments? Very good. We're going to close now the public comments, item number 5. We're going to move to item number 6, which is a request, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene a public meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We've now resumed back into a public meeting. Thank you. Item number 7 is to take action on the public hearing. We'll first go to item H.2A, which is the action for, I'll read it. Discussion and interaction on a request to amend the West Central Weber County General Plan's future land use map to change some of the proposed area into the block between 7500 West and 7900 West, just north of 900 South, from industrial to residential agriculture, and to extend industrial southward to 900 South.
I'd make a motion that we approve that. H.2A.
And it's ordinance 17.
Second.
I'm sorry, resolution, it's a different thing altogether.
This is a,
Ordinance or resolution?
It's a resolution, and it's number 48.
I'll second resolution 48.
just to be clear, Commissioner Jenkins, your intent was for resolution 48.
That's correct.
Very good. Have a motion and a second on this. It's a roll call vote. Fatima?
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
And Chair Harvey?
Aye. Item number B, which is H.2B, is discussion and/or action on request for approval to amend the zone map to change property in the block 7500 West and 7900 West, just north of 900 South, from M1 to A2, from A2 to M1. And this would be resolution number 48.
This is an ordinance, actually.
You know, it's just wonderful how... Good grief.
You know, in the future, it'd be nice if right after the note, it was highlighted, whether it was a resolution or an ordinance.
If you,
that'd make it much easier on our end.
Having been a graduate of Hooked on Phonics, they didn't cover the difference between the two. So let's go to that. So I'll look now for a motion on ordinance number
17.
ordinance number 17. Commissioners, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second for ordinance number 17. Being an ordinance, I'll ask you, Fatima, again.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
And Chair Harvey?
Aye. Thank you, that carries. Just because of compelling testimony, I assure you. Now go to item number H.4, which is a discussion and/or action on a request for the First Amendment to the Zoning Development Agreement, ordinance number 96-33, to reinstate the expired zoning development agreement and allow for a temporary park and ride lot. Is this a ordinance, a
It's right there. I'd make a motion that we.
ordinance?
I'd make a motion we approve ordinance 96-33.
Or, well, it'd be, is that it?
This is
Fatima?
just an agreement, a zoning development agreement, so there's no ordinance or a resolution.
Okay. Second.
You know,
It said right there, so I thought I'd nailed it.
I looked too, I saw it. So this is just an agreement, so there's no roll call vote on this, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. We have I think we had a motion. Can you reinstate?
We have a motion. You have a second.
And you have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That carries. Thank you very much. Item number I is now a commissioner's comments. Commissioner Jenkins, Commissioner Ebert, what are your any comments that either one of you have?
So the first comment I want to make, well, the only comment I want to make, sorry, is I want to just tell Rhonda thank you. We have all these competing interests in different areas within the county, and right now in the Upper Valley, there's some competing interests against some groups. Summit has a bunch of property, and they're trying to have a business model that they can move their project forward, their development forward. And at times they have pieces of property that they want to use for a certain usage, and sometimes the community doesn't think that's the best usage because that hasn't been the usage for the last 1,000 years. And one of these was what Summit's going to do with parking. And they started having a discussion about it, and members of the community were a little concerned with where that facility was going on that piece of property. And Rhonda worked to reduce the some of the tension in the room between the two groups, found resolution to it, worked with the rest of the staff, and brought us forward something that was working. We haven't always had that. We haven't had the relationships with Summit at times where they were willing to do things, and I just want to say thank you to Rhonda and to Rick as her supervisor for finding resolution to something that works for everybody, up to and including providing trees to help soften, some of the look, because we are going to have a bunch of cars there, and it's not always the most aesthetically looking or pleasing. But they found resolution, so I want to say thank you again to staff for being problem solvers. All right, customer service oriented and more of a consultant feel to Weber County. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Jenkins, anything?
Ditto to those comments. Isn't that winning in Weber?
Oh, brother.
That's
One
what
last
we do.
thing. Miss Hallisey, you're shaking your head no. No, not what was okay, very good. Then we'll hold that no for another time.
A top secret thing.
Yeah, that's okay. Entertain a motion for item J.
So moved.
Second.
Or
Were you talking
I have a
to me?
motion and a second before I close the meeting. I have one more thing I'm going to say. In our audience today, we have a person who has been here many, many weeks. She gives back to the community and country and to her neighborhood a lot. And Sylvia, don't mean to call you out, but I do. You're a good example to many, and I want you to know that you're appreciated very much. Thank you.
I think she's made more meetings than I have.
She's certainly more consistent.
Thank you.
Aye.
Well, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Rhonda and Charlie, perfecto today.
Thank you.